Guys, this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop. The next time you're looking to add the newest wrestling figures to your lineup, you've got to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Started by collectors, for collectors around the globe, Wrestling Collector Shop has been serving fans the latest and greatest in wrestling action figures since 2002. Whether you're looking for basics, elites, or ultimates, Wrestling Collector Shop should be your first stop the next time you're looking for wrestling figures. So make sure to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com and use code SWOGGLE to save yourself 10% on your order. Again, that's 10% off with code SWOGGLE only at WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Hey guys, once again, another episode of Going Postl. As you see in the title, it's a small talk. This episode's guest, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, Ken Anderson. So nice. He's always named himself twice, as I always say. But before we go any further, I'm Dylan. That's George. George, hit him with it.
As always, this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop. You can use code SWOGGLE to save yourself 10% on Mattel Basics, Elite, Ultimates, and they even got some Collect Major products over there as well, over at WrestlingCollectorShop.com. And of course, you can follow the show at Going Postl Pod. You can follow Dylan at Dylan Postl. You can also check out all the video content that Dylan is creating over at YouTube.com/Dylan Postl. If you want some more information about Swoggle, maybe his exclusive Big Cartel store, that is over at DylanPostl.com. And if you want to pick up an exclusive premium high-quality Swoggle shirt, you can do that over at ProWrestlingTees.com/Swoggle, SwoggleAuction.com for a free $10 credit on Whatnot. Dylan?
The next Whatnot will be Wednesday, February 12th. Sign up if you haven't yet. And even if you have, go to Whatnot, search Dylan Postl on Whatnot, and bookmark the show. And so then you're first to know when I go live. But it'll be February 12th, Wednesday night, February 12th. We're going to have some fun. Landon just went to Freak Toys today and got 3 random items that are going on the auction block in February, next month.
If you want to get more content from this show or the Game Marks podcast, you could do that over at patreon.com/PodXchange. It's PodXchange. Dylan recorded his first Going Postl Aftermath, which is a new exclusive Patreon show. As you are listening to this, that should have gone up on Monday, and I do believe that Dylan will be receiving the final piece of the puzzle that he needs to put together the Muppets trivia.
Yes, patreon.com/PodXchange. This is going to be very entertaining.
It's going to be.
I'm throwing a monkey wrench into this.
All right. Well, you're going to have to see and check out that and all the other stuff that we're creating content-wise over at patreon.com/PodXchange. Dylan, before we get into the interview, the small talk that you did with Ken Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, is there anything that the people should know prior to getting into the interview?
It was just really good to finally have him on here. I tell every interview that he's the reason I got started in wrestling. He's the reason he's the main guy, one of the main guys that trained me. He got me my job with WWE, and I found out some things in this interview that I never knew, with how I got hired and how I got my extra work and how Vince's son angle scoop in this one. So we hit on a lot of things that have never been told before. So before we get into that, George, what do we have to do?
That would be an ad break.
Are you a fan of Disney, Pixar, Jurassic Park, The Office, or even WWE, or maybe you just want a sleek and comfortable pattern shirt, then you need to check out Roosevelts.com. RSVLTS.com today. Roosevelt's makes the most eye-catching and comfortable shirts going today. Whether it's button-ups or polos or hoodies or even hats and everything in between, Roosevelt's truly has something for everyone. Made for those with the love of sports, pop culture, and so much more. And above all else, having a kick-ass time. This clothing is for the bold and fun, for those who dare mighty things. Roosevelts.com. Check them out. I say it in almost every single interview I do. There's one guy that I owe 96.5% of my career to, and the good things that have happened to me to start it all off. And here he is. So nice that he named himself twice in every company he's been in. Hi, Guy.
What's up, man?
Hi.
How you doing?
These are always, I say it in every one. Whenever it's like friends of mine and buddies of mine, people that I actually know, getting into it is always the weirdest part. And it's like, oh, yeah, because otherwise we just go, hey, good to see you. And we just catch up. But It's always really, really weird to start these fake conversation startings.
It is. It takes a couple minutes to like think into it, right? Like,
yeah. Here's what I was thinking today. Why is Wisconsin such a black hole for independent wrestling people? The reason I say this is, and I was making notes and very small, there we go, notes. And you were the first guy, I will say, to come out of Wisconsin easily. Like
the Crusher, bro. Can't forget the Crusher.
But in 90 years, you were the first guy.
Yeah.
Why do you think Wisconsin has always been that black hole? And like, to be honest, anywhere that's not Chicago in the Midwest.
You know, I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot of the fact that nobody has come out of there. It was hard for people to find a legitimate school. I think that's part of it. And I'm not saying that like the people like it involves a lot of not having people that have been to the dance recently. You end up trying to figure shit out on your own.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of the stuff we did for 6 years working the independents where we were given bad information or just a little bit of information. And, you know, it's not the fault of any of those people. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I can really think.
It's just weird because it's like Chicago obviously always has such a spotlight. You now in Minnesota have really, really had it. And we're trying to do it in Wisconsin still, but it's always like seemed like it's just odd. You, me, Silas, Matt Winchester a bit, but like it's very, very odd. And that's what I say to my students now. It's very weird, but we're trying to come out of the black hole, but it's just always been that way. It's just kind of odd to me.
Well, you know, and you have like, there's only a few promotions that run in Wisconsin that are like big time, like HEW, like GLCW, and then they're very far apart from each other, you know. And there's other smaller promotions that just doesn't have that feel. Like when you guys put on a show, it's like you pull out all the stops.
Yeah. All right. We're going October 2006. No, 2003. October of 2003. Vodka and concussions. My memory is horrible. Hopefully yours is better. You show up to the Nangyi Performance Center in Green Bay, and there is a midget in the ring wanting to train. What is going through your head?
Like, I remember, like, this dude's cool. You were so hungry.
And I really didn't know a whole lot myself at the time. I'd only been in the business for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, I always had this yearning to like help people out as much as I could. You know, like you said at the beginning that you credit me with a lot of your success. Like, I'm just happy that I was able to, you did all that. I was just happy to be able to connect the dots, you know, and I didn't really, I didn't have that. I sort of had to go out and make all those connections on my own. So yeah.
Do you remember ever thinking like, how is this going to work? training this not real human?
No, never. No, it was just like, okay, we can do what you can do, you know, like you couldn't do everything. Just because like most of the people around you were a lot bigger than you.
Yeah.
But like that's the beauty of wrestling, man. Like, you know, you only have to know a few things in order to have like a good, solid match, right? The 5 moves of doom.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of wrestling. The beauty, and another beautiful thing is like, if you're hurt, you can still wrestle. If you're old, you can still wrestle.
It's just tweaking what you do and tweaking what you make them believe. That's all it is.
And then you figure out, okay, now how do I truly tell a story?
Yeah. So I often think, you know, it wouldn't be much long after that. A memory I distinctly have is your final show for ACW. It was at the bar in Green Bay, I believe. And you were in a big cage and you bled buckets and all of that. And I just remember like thinking, man, if I were to ever get signed, that's the kind of send off I want, because you had your family there, your friends there, and it was just like a special moment. And do you remember that at all? Is it always like, because it really, and I don't know why it sticks with me so much, but I distinctively remember that whole thing.
That was the cage match with Hillbilly Hills, right?
It was you, Shane, was Rob in there? Rob Norwood? And I think it was a 4-way. Oh, and Dis. Kurt was in there too. I think it was a 4-way.
I remember, my memories are, Davari called me on say that show was on Saturday, right? Davari called me on a Friday and he said, hey, did WWE get in touch with you? No. Why? What's going on? And he said, they just signed like 7 guys from OVW.
Oh.
So there was at OVW, there was the people who were signed to contracts, and then there were people who were just there in the amateur class trying to get signed. And he goes, they just signed 7 guys from OVW, so they're having another round of hirings. And Tommy Dreamer and Arn Anderson and Paul Heyman had all said, like, the next time there's a round of hirings, we're gonna try to get you in there.
Because you have done at that point, you were. That's another thing I think about too, Ken, is like you were always one of the extras. Anytime they were in anywhere in the Midwest touchable, you were there. Yep. And you just, because you didn't care how far it was, you just went to show face at the very minimum. And that's something I always think about too, is, man, there wasn't a show that I can remember that you weren't an extra for.
And that was all me calling and asking.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, you miss 100% of the shots you never take, right? Like, I just pick up the phone. Hey, I see that you guys are going to be in St. Louis and this other place. Can you use me? And a lot of times it was, no, we use Harley's guys over there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And the next time they were in that area, I'd call just to make sure. And then one of those times, he was like, yeah, we actually need an extra guy. I think it was Tommy. And that was my last extra work that I did. The thing about the extra thing that's different now that kind of sucks for guys, the thing that kind of sucks is, like, when I was doing extra work, we were getting matches regularly, and they were doing squash matches and dark
velocity,
matches.
heat, everything.
None of that. None of that.
Yep.
None of that now. Now, if the guys get used, they get used. Like last time they were in Minnesota, a couple of our guys were there and they got beat up by the Bloodline.
Yep.
You know,
it's always just like backstage security or medics or that kind of thing.
Yep.
And
so there is a big difference now.
And you don't get eyes on you then. You truly don't. And because remember also for extras for years, there would always be the tryout matches, which was literally them like, it's so, and I talked to Kofi about this actually when I had him on. It was always like all the talent guy or the contracted guys sitting in the stands and yucking it up about the matches. When in all reality, that's where we were. That's where most of us were 2-3 years before. So it's just like so much pressure already on these guys. And then you have people in the stand just yucking it up if they mess up and flub up. It's just like thinking about that it was so stupid, but you don't even have that now. You don't even have like the tryout matches and that to get seen. So the extra work is so, like you said, it's so different.
It really is. And to be honest with you, I never took that. I never did that. I was always trying to help those guys. If I saw somebody I would always, hey, Johnny, this guy right here, like there was a couple other people that I got looked at. And I remember like one night we were in, I believe it was the night before WrestleMania 23 or 24. We were at the hotel bar. Johnny was there, and it was like me, Punk, and Daivari were ganged up on Johnny, and we were like, Colt Cabana, Colt Cabana, Colt Cabana. And he had a couple in him, and he was like, all right, I'll do it. And he signed him the next day.
That's awesome. So you go to OVW, and as you and I have talked about in the past, pretty quickly, you gain a pretty important fan in Paul Heyman.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you always said to me, it was like crazy how that became a thing so quick. When did that first like hit? When did you feel it like, oh, I do have a believer here?
So this is crazy. Like in doing all those dark matches and the extra work, right? There was a time where I don't remember what city it was in, but there was a talent meeting at 1:00 in the afternoon. So all the extras, all the local guys were out by the ring, and we just got in and we, 4 people on this side, 4 people, and tag in, tag out. For some reason, Paul Heyman and JR were the only 2 people that didn't go to that meeting. They were sitting ringside. And so, and Daivari had already smartened me up because I think he was hired at the time already. And guys were getting in there and they would chain around a little bit and exchange some holds and stuff. And Davari's like, they don't want to see that. Like, that doesn't show them anything. They want to see character. They want to see. And I was like, oh, okay. So when I get in there, I'm going to really ham it up and be a heel. And so I did. And I tagged out. I rolled to the floor. And Paul just said, come here for a second. And I walked over to him and he was like, who trained you? And I was like, I got trained by 2 guys in Green Bay. Mike Mercury and Eric Hammers. And then I got polished by Brad Rangans in Minnesota. He was like, I know Brad, and Brad trained Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
So he really knew, he's like, oh, I know Brad.
Mm-hmm.
I know Brad well. And then from that point, it was just like later on the day, I remember somebody came and got me. It was Johnny. And he said, hey, Paul Heyman wants you to do a promo. So then he pulled me into this room. And I remember Paul, like, I was like, what do you want me to say? And he was like, maybe something like this. And he fucking cut a heel promo. And then he was like, and then maybe you cut a heel promo. And he cut a completely different promo on the fly. And I was just like kind of blown away. And I'm stressed out because that's outside my comfort zone, right?
Yep.
So I'm sitting outside that room, psyching myself up right outside of pre-tapes. Brooklyn Brawler was in pre-tapes all the time, right? He was going to film it. And then somebody came to me at last second and said, cut, it's not happening. There's too much stuff going on. So it never happened. But Paul came up to me later that day and he was like, call me. Here's my number. He gave me his office number. Call me tomorrow. All right. And I called him the next day. And then I called him every Wednesday for like the next 4 months. And I never got through to him. And then I remember talking to Tommy and he was like, hey, that's just Paul.
Yeah.
You know, he really does want to help you. He will help you, but he's just busy. But then, so fast forward, I'm at OVW for like 5 or 6 months, just kind of like floating, really not figuring out, you know, they've got 50 or 60 guys and girls there that are all trying to get signed, get brought up to the main roster. And they got like a couple dark matches every once in a while. So they take like 2 hats, a hat of heels and a hat of baby faces, and they just randomly pull 2 names out and here, you guys go out there, get over. You got 5 minutes. It's really hard to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I had finally started to figure it out a little bit, and then Jim Cornette slapped Santino Marella around backstage.
Yeah.
Right in front of me too. Like I was right there and I saw it. And then somebody called the office and stooged and said, you know, this happened. And they fired him. They fired Jim Cornette right away. And we didn't have any clue as to who was coming down and who was going to take over. We thought it was going to be like Al or Lance. Paul came in, and I got to the building early that day, and he was like, come here for a second. I want to talk to you in the office. And I went into the office, and he was like, you're the next guy out of here. I'm like, he goes, you're the next guy out of
Caught
here.
you completely off guard?
Yeah, I had no clue. Because like he would come down and do promos like every couple months. And I would go in, cut my promo. He would critique it. And then you'd go home and then come back the next day and reshoot it.
Not for him, though, just in general.
Just for him.
Oh, okay.
He would come to OVW every 2 months or so for promo class. And we would just go into a room. It would be you and Paul sitting in a chair with a camera, and then you cut your promo. He would critique it, and then he would go, thank you, see you tomorrow. And then you'd go home and like work on it and refine it, and then come back the next day and hopefully have fixed the things that he didn't like. And then shoot it again. And I remember like he always had good criticisms and good notes. Yeah. And then I would come back that second day, I would cut it, and he would go, okay, thank you. And I'd be like, anything? No, thank you. Loved it. I'm like, this guy fucking hates me, you know? Like,
yeah.
There's got to be something. And then that's when he pulled me into that office and he said, like, I've been a fan of yours since I met you that day, sitting ringside. He remembered that day. And he's like, I've been watching you. I've been paying attention to you. And I'm going to do so much stuff with you over the course of the next few weeks that they're going to see you and they're going to pull you up on the active roster. And true to his word, that night, you know, OVW was like a 55-minute television show, or 50, 51 or 52. I swear I had like 30 minutes of that show. I had a pre-tape backstage promo. I had like a 20-minute match, and then a post show, you know. So, and then literally 5 weeks later, Tommy reached out to me and said, hey, they want to see you at Raw or they want to see you at SmackDown this week in Columbus. They want to see you do your gimmick. And
then it was just off to the races. It was literally no looking back.
Just like that. And literally my life just turned into a whirlwind right from that point. It was just to go from going to the grocery store and like, hey, do we put the potatoes back or the dish soap back? You know, like,
traveling the world.
Yep. Still not making any money though. I was still broke for a couple months, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then to make matters worse, I relatively quickly, within 4 or 5 weeks that I was on the road, Batista suggested, hey, like, I know that you love those OVW guys and you're friends with them, but like, you're not going to learn anything from them. Get in the car with the vet. And so I reached out to Eddie and Chris, and they said I could ride with them, but they always stayed at like Hamptons and $150 a night hotels, which I did not have that. So it was really stressful to try to come up with that kind of dough.
So you get called up. You've talked about it a million times how the announcing yourself came up. I'm not going to rehash that. Look, watch another interview of Ken's. It's fine. What I want to talk about is probably my favorite feud of yours very early. One with the man, Tony Chimel.
Yeah.
He's been on the show. He's a friend of both of ours. He
Yeah.
is legitimately probably a top 5 unsung hero in WWE history. Give me some memories. Give me some happenings. Obviously, every night you did the lowering the mic off the chair, which was even on house shows was just because you knew Chimel expected something to happen every night because something usually did.
And here's the thing. That chair gimmick that I still use today on indie shows, whatever.
Yes.
That was Chimmel's idea. He was so creative. I remember like I started I would drink the water and I'd spit it in his face, right? Like I asked his permission first before I did it. And then yeah, you can do that. And then so then the next day I come in and he's like, hey, I got an idea. How about you go to spit the water, I cover up, then you hit me in the nuts, and then you spit me in the face.
I remember that. Yes. I said it to him, and I hate putting him over because he'll put himself over, but he was up for literally anything, and he knew he was the butt of the joke, and he was just okay with it because he loved being that. He didn't care. He truly didn't. House shows were literally almost every match I remember during that time was how will this person or that person mess with Chimel in the entrance during the match, anything.
Yeah. Those were the fun times where you got to like experiment, and
yes,
I think that's where we all became close. We all became like
connected on house shows and overseas tours
because we would sit and watch each other's stuff.
Yeah.
And laugh about it and pop for it. And hey, how about this next time? You should do this. You know, you were always thinking about different ideas for different people.
Is there a moment with Chimel that stands out?
So there's one that stands out, and this was the beginning of Vince telling me, stop being so goddamn funny. So, you know, there's that scene from Full Metal Jacket where they find the jelly donut in the footlocker of Private Pile. Are you familiar?
Yep.
So hey, Chimel, I was in catering, and I saw they always had some donuts, and they had a jelly donut, and I was like, Chimel, how about you put this in your pocket? And we reenact that scene, and yeah, that sounds great. So at that point, I remember Vince hadn't given me any. I would ask him from time to time. I'd go like, anything particular you want me to say in my promo? Nope, just get over. Literally, I just like it was so
for TV.
He would just go, I just want you to get over. And he goes, don't even worry about being a heel. Don't try to be a baby face. Just get over. Okay. So then week by week, it got a little funnier and a little funnier and a little crazier and over the top. And then, that week I did the jelly donut thing, and I came back and Vince was like, that's enough of that. Too much. And then it started like this, and it was frustrating for me at the time because like all of the things that brought me to the dance, Vince was now telling me like, don't do that. I don't want you to do that. It was just really, really hard. And I fought him for a long time on it. And now when I watch my stuff from then, I fucking cringe because it's like he was right.
Isn't it weird to think like it can be this vision, this vision, this vision, and then it would be, God damn it, why are you doing that? And it's like, it's crazy to think, and it's such a mind fuck.
I remember there was this period of time where he was like, I want you to smile. Damn it. Let's see those pearly whites. You got a good smile. Smile. And so I would go out and I would think that I was smiling a ton. And I would be like, I look like an idiot. I'm smiling so much. And then I'd come back to the curtain. I'd look at him and he'd go like, smile, goddammit. Why aren't you smiling? And so like I kept doing this week after week. And then I went out and I was like, all right, I'm going to smile from the minute that I go through the curtain until the minute I come back. And I did. And I came back and I looked at him and he goes, God damn it, stop smiling so much.
I remember. I don't think I've ever told you this one, but you probably heard about it afterwards. Whenever I was underneath the ring for TV, I would just put the headset on and just listen to what him and Kevin and whoever the producers are saying and all that. I loved it. It was like such an inside baseball point to the business, which unless you're on the cans, no one knew what they were saying.
Which was talk about literally seeing how the sausage is made, right?
Yes, it was nuts, crazy. But you came out and you were chewing your gum. And if you know Ken, he chews his gum very hard and very he's a heavy gum chewer. Something he's always been. Always just he's got gum in his mouth. So but on the headset, Vince goes, "God damn it. Him with that gum." And I go, "That's the one thing you're taking from this? Like this whole thing gets over all of this. God damn it, that gum." I was like, that's today's gripe.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I started doing that because I remember hearing my grandma complain about, like, look at the way he chews his gum. God. So I was like, yeah, that's a little irritating thing that I'm a heel. And I remember, honestly, had I just bucked up to him at the time and said, Vince, if it's bothering you, it's probably bothering them, right? Like, and that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But I just okay, and then I'd try to stop chewing it so much, But when we did the Mini Kennedy, right? Didn't they have that guy chew the gum?
They put a wad of gum on. It was a wad of gum in his mouth too. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I'm gonna talk about this because I guarantee it's something that you talk about in everyone, but I don't care. Thinking back now, your match with Eddie, do you feel there is more personal emotion now, or there was more emotion that day going into it thinking, oh man, I have this pretty awesome opportunity? Where you know what I mean? Where is there more emotion?
Probably today, honestly, because at the time, and I can't explain this, and I don't say this to be cocky, but like at the time I was like, I belong here. I don't know. When I started on TV, I just had this like confidence about me. Yeah. And I feel like that was a lot of why Vince liked me and why I was able to like get over a little bit at first. Was just I had this confidence, and this is another day at the office. I mean, I respected Eddie and I respected everybody, but like I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm wrestling Eddie Guerrero tonight. It was like, let's fucking do this. And now it's like, no, there's time. I remember wrestling Ric Flair on a pay-per-view and just being like, whatever. Well, and Shawn Michaels, I had a little feud with Shawn Michaels. It turns out it's like one of my favorite feuds that I've ever had. Like if I go back and I watch the matches, it was just awesome to work with him. And I didn't appreciate it at the time. And now looking back, I'm like, what the fuck were you thinking, Ken?
I think it's because Hawkins has that same thing because he goes, yo, me and Broski wrestled Flair and Shawn Michaels in a cage. Flair bled all over the place. And it was just like, we just walked away from it. I think because in that world, in that time, everything moves so fast. The next week you're doing something else. And the next week you're doing something else. The next week you're off. You know what I mean? And that you're not able to just go, this is pretty awesome. You never are able to feel that.
The WWE life is like test taking in America. Yes. You just commit stuff to memory for the day. You take the test, then you dump it, and you're on to the next one. And that's exactly what it is. Like I'll go back and watch. Anastasia wanted to watch some of my old stuff because she didn't watch at the time. Yeah. So we were going through like week by week, a couple SmackDowns, and I was like, I don't even remember having this match. Like there was a bunch of them that somebody posted a video of me and MVP doing something with Kane and Taker. I had no recollection of doing this at all. It was just, you're just on the go. It's 5 days a week. Go, 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 go. You don't even have time to think about it.
So after the Eddie match, you
Yep.
get injured. WWE has TV in Green Bay. You do like a dark promo that day, but
Yeah. It was a dark day for me too.
yes, Kurt, yeah, but
No.
it was not a dark day for me because that weekend I owe to you. You got me extra work for the very first time.
Yeah.
We're going to peek behind the curtain, and I'm going to act like I'm sitting in a locker room with you right now, asking you, because I don't truly know this. How do you find out they need a midget for extra work?
Tommy Dreamer came up to me. He's like, "Do you know any little people wrestlers that can?" Yes, I do. Can you get me in touch with them? Yes, I can. And I don't think I had your number. I had to call Merck.
You had to call Merck. Yeah.
And then I don't remember if Merck called you, if I told Merck to call you,
me.
or you called me directly.
Mike Mercury called me, and he says,
Yeah.
"Hey, they're trying to get a hold of you." And I was like, "Okay, sure, yeah." So I remember I called you. You then told me to call Tommy, and it was like the telephone game, just like I would get a call back, and same as like 2 weeks later, which I want to kind of talk about too, is like you get a call back, and it's a restricted number because of the office. I am a 19-year-old kid with a lot of credit card debt, thinking a credit card company is calling because they want their money. And so I ignore all of these calls.
Yeah.
But because then that weekend turns into, like I say, 2 weeks later, where they need a sidekick for Fit. You put your name out there for me. And how was that again? Like, how did you find out about that? I don't know any of this stuff of how this all came to be. And you're the reason, legitimately, you're the reason for both of these major things even coming about. And I don't know.
I believe it was Fit that told me this is, we're looking for a little sidekick for me.
Yeah.
And I remember like you were up against, there was like 6 other guys that were there auditioning for that role.
They did it for 3 weeks. They tried out little guys. There wasn't another little guy in Green Bay. A funny thing is Jesse from Jesse and Festus, who is not a little person at all.
He tried out for it.
They tried him out for it.
Yeah. I remember like most of the tryouts were little people.
Yeah.
There was one guy though that was like, he was just like 4'5" or something like that. So he was, like he was like, that guy's way too tall for this role. But
yeah.
they gave him a shot anyway, And I whenever I could, I'd be like, he's really good. He's got a great attitude. And it's like it wasn't all me. It was you had to do the work and you had to do the shitty Irish accent.
God damn. God damn. I remember you were talking about going to, going in by Brawler and pre-tapes and that promo never happening because there wasn't time. Mm-hmm. I wish my promo never happened because there wouldn't have been time. Walking out of pre-tapes after them asking me to do an Irish accent, me trying it, and then walking out of that pre-tape and me going, Fit, how do you think it went? And he goes, not good. And it was like, what? Great. All right. Never again. And but then 2 weeks later, getting the call, it was nuts. It was absolutely insane to me.
Because I think there's something to everybody, like we try to make each other happy too.
Yeah.
As much as we can. So like, there's got to be a little of that in Fit's head and Tommy's head. Like, hey, Ken said this guy's good. I like him. He's, sociable. He's not a dick. These guys are great, but let's go with this guy. I don't know.
I think it's fully that. Why would you put your name out there for someone that's shitty?
Right.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't. And you don't. Like,
correct.
Yep.
You come back from injury, and did you immediately feel what everyone saw of that rocket ship is going to the moon? Did you, because that's immediately, I mean, you go from the U.S. title, this insane feud with Taker, Money in the Bank it leads up to. Like, did you feel that rocket ship immediately?
So it was the turning point for me was the match with Batista at the Great American Bash.
Yeah.
So I had just been kind of floating after I came back, like, oh, they're really not, it wasn't this like monster push that they had given me right when I first started. I'm just feeling like I'm floating. And then Vince pulled me aside. Mark Henry was supposed to wrestle Batista. Batista was coming back off of injury. Mark Henry gave Rey Mysterio a squisher in the corner and somehow snapped his kneecap in half and needed surgery. So he's out. And I remember Vince, there was 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks to go home and for the pay-per-view. And Vince came up to me and he's like, you know what you're doing at the Great American Bash? Nope. You're wrestling Batista. Are you ready? I said, fuck yeah, I'm ready. And he, all right. And then that was it. Then, we have this little short build-up. And then on the day, honestly, I was like, this could go either way. This is Batista. Look at him. He's a monster. Yeah. He's coming back off of injury. He's one of their guys. And I sort of thought going into it, like, this is going to kind of be a squash match. God, I hope it's not a squash or like close to a squash.
Yep.
And also, like, I'm going to ask if I can get some color because it feels like.
Yep. Yep.
And I asked Arn was our producer. And I said, what kind of match is this? And he goes, it's competitive, 50-50, back and forth. All right, cool. And then when he told me the finish where Batista's going to lose his shit and he's going to, not relinquish the 5 count. He's going to keep kicking the shit out of me and ignore the ref's count and get counted out. And then I win via DQ. And then I was like, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Can I get color? I get color? And they went and they checked and came back to me and said, no color. Don't get color. Because Taker was wrestling in the Punjabi prison match, I want to say.
Yep.
So he was going to get color. And like 30 seconds to a minute into our match, I rolled out to the floor. Batista bounced my head off the steps and I like split the uprights and just bang. And I remember like hitting it and going, I'm bleeding. And then I got in the corner. He rolled me in the ring. I got in the corner and he was like, oh man, are you okay? And I'm like, yep. And then I got I knew it was coming really good. And then, which was already, I remember like having this moment. This is crazy, right? But like, I remember mounting Batista, like he's in the ring, he's laying on his back. I get on top of him and I'm like raining these punches down on him. And I could, like in slow motion, I could see this big giant drop of blood dropping and then went right into his open eye. And he went, like, and I don't know. There's something about a little blood that it like instills that like that flight or fight, and it just makes it feel a little more real. And then I'm already getting good sauce. And then at the end of the match, he loses his shit, and he's supposed to post me 3 times, give me 3 spine busters, and then the power bomb. And on that first post shot, I'm already lined up. I'm ready. I'm going, and he just gave me a little extra, and I just couldn't move out of the way, and I just hit that post.
Oh no!
And it just started raining, and I remember the lights went out for a second, and then they came back on, and then I was like, "Oh, this is really good now." and Batista's like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm good. I'm good. Hit me. Keep giving them to me. 3 spine busters, then." Kind of a shitty power bomb. I slipped off him a little bit. And I walked through the curtain and everybody was standing up. They're like, are you okay? And I went, yeah, I'm good. What did you think? And then it was like Vince went, yes, that's a man, and it was kind of funny. I went back and I checked my phone. I'm covered head to toe in blood. It's drying now. I'm checking my messages and there's like people like I had like a flood of 20 text messages. I remember CM Punk being one of them. He was like, good color, great color.
So that was the kickoff. During that period, then was it again just kind of going with, this is work, this is what I'm here to do, this is just the life, or did you feel this?
So about 2 weeks after that match, I'm on a house show and Taker pulls me aside and says, "Hey, I saw what you did with Batista, and I liked what I saw. I think we could make some money. I'm going to talk to the boss." And I just remember thinking, like, don't get, and I always try, I don't get excited about anything until it's actually happening. And then I try to, it's like, it's hard for me to get super, super excited about anything.
Yep.
Because I know that it can all be taken away before it happens. So
I'm not blaming anything on anyone or any workplace, but I think our former workplace did that to us, because I have the same mindset of, until it happens, don't get excited, because it can only be let down.
Yep.
We're
And
therapists.
so,
We're a therapist's dream to try to fix.
Totally. But like a week later, Taker came up and said, "Hey, just to let you know, the boss okayed it. We're gonna go into a program. We're gonna get at least 3 pay-per-views out of it, maybe more. We'll see." And I was just like, again, it hasn't happened. But like, you get that, fuck yeah, this is Taker.
Yep.
This is like this is a big deal. Yeah. And then a couple weeks later, so I believe I was the United States champion at the time. I was only a U.S. champion for like a month.
Yep.
Because when it was determined that when it got okayed for me to work with Taker, they were like, "You don't need the title. Like, there's no reason for you to have the U.S. championship." So then I dropped it to Chris.
Yep.
And then, fast forward a week later, and we're in, I believe it was Oklahoma City, first house show match with Taker. And I went up to him and, "What would you like to do?" And he was like, "We're not going to call anything in the back." He said, "Just listen to me, okay? Just listen to me." He said, "If I'll tell you to punch me, give me a punch. If I say kick me, give me 1 kick. Just listen to me, and we'll be fine. We'll see how it goes." And so I knew it was like the least stressed that I've ever been going into a match, because I'm going in with this guy who is a legend, who I know is going to take care of himself, and he's going to take care of me.
Yep.
He's not going to look like an idiot. So,
yeah.
And I just went out there and literally, like, we just walked and talked, and he told me everything to do, and he ducked my punch, give me a punch, powder. Like, he just kept. And so then we came back, and he was like, "All right, man, I like that. That was good." And then the next night, he's like, "What's one thing that you want to do?" And I put in that boot wash that I always did. And, and then, like, little by little, I was able to gain his respect.
It had to feel you out before he gave you too much line.
Yep.
100%.
So then he felt me out for, like, it was a couple weeks before we did our first pay-per-view match. But that first pay-per-view match, we're in the ring, and he says, I think I've told you this before. He was down on his knees, and he went, "Give me a pile driver." And I'm like, he must want me to, like, pull him in, and then he's going to backdrop me out of it, right? So I can pull him in, and I hear him go, like, "Give it to me." Oh, okay. And I was like, he's 290 pounds. He's the Undertaker. And I made sure I pinched his head so hard and sat back and made sure that I took care of him. I held up his body weight as much as I could. And then I came through the curtain, and Vince gave me the old and I went over to him. He said, "Don't do that again. I know that didn't come from you. That came from Taker. He's trying to get you over. He's sometimes too giving. He's trying to get you over. I only allow 2 people to do pile drivers in my company, and you're not one of them." He wasn't mad about it. It's just so kind of an interesting little.
So then we move forward. And whenever I do interviews, like I say, a lot of things revolve around you, it seems. 3 things come up: McMahon's son, WLC,
Mm-hmm.
and probably the biggest Mania moment, definitely the biggest WrestleMania moment I ever had.
Me too.
I get asked this, but I want to turn it on you.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is almost 20 years later, which is crazy to think. Do you that day and night and, the day before walking through it, did you even think we had a moment that would be remembered so vividly as it is? Because it didn't for me. I knew it would be cool, and I was like really, really happy to do it, and so excited because it was a big spot in that ladder match.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be such a memory for people.
No, I'm in the same boat that you are. Like, I knew it was cool. I knew that it would be a good little pop. I knew it was going to be a good little spot, but yeah. No,
Thank God we didn't do that power bomb that didn't work out.
Totally. That was, and that, honestly, that was all you. Like, I remember sitting there, what can I give him off the ladder? Because they wanted me to give you something, and you were like, I don't take power bombs well. And then you were like, hey, do you think you could do the Finley roll? And there was a crash pad right there and a couple ladders, and I think we tried it.
Yes, the one thing I distinctively remember everyone's going through their stuff, and we were both, because we tried the power bomb, it just didn't work onto the crash pad, and it wouldn't work. And then so everyone was like, all right, everyone started talking about the match again, and I was frustrated because I was like, oh, there goes my WrestleMania moment, obviously. And then I said to you, hey, can you give me that? And you and I just got in the practice ring, and then I remember you lifting me up for it, and Fitz laughed, just going, and like, now everyone's watching us. And you go, do you want to do it? I said, let's go. And we tried it. And I remember Johnny being there, and he goes, oh my God, like, he's dead. And we were great. And instantly, it was yep, that'll work. We know we can do that.
Yeah. And my favorite part about that whole thing was I hit it. And when I hit it, I wasn't able to check on you. Because, like, you know, when you do something like that, you try to check on your opponent. And I wasn't able to because I had to do another spot. But then I came right back over to you, and you were laying in the corner underneath the turnbuckle, kind of on the apron. And I just like, hey, man, you okay? And you went, yeah, I'm good. Like
literally
you were
stopped.
like,
I remember stopping selling and going, I'm good, buddy. And then like going like, oh, shit.
like you popped out a cigarette with one of those long little, yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing? You got a little conversation.
Yeah, there's not 80,000 people watching us as you just killed me off this spot.
Yeah.
All right. We got the peek behind the curtain at that. We need the peek behind the curtain for one last thing before we wrap up. Vince's son. It was you. It was going to be you all along. Give me the backstory. What do you know? Let's get to the bottom of it finally. Because it was not supposed to be me.
So, yeah, Stephanie actually came to me like 2 months prior to that. And she was like, hey, Vince has a really cool idea. He would like to present it to you. I think you really like it. And so then I went into the office, and he sort of laid it out for me. I'm going to have a, illegitimate son, a bastard son, and there's going to be a big investigation over the course of the next several weeks, months. And then it turns out it'll be you. And so we started just every week doing like little stuff. I remember doing an interview where I walked up to Vince in the back, and we had a little little exchange, and then the camera stayed on Vince. I walked away, and I did the Vince McMahon walk as I walked away, and stuff like that. And then, so when they instituted the wellness policy, there was like, well, what do we do? Because you can't go from using that stuff to just cold turkey. So how do we do this and stay safe and still fall under the guidelines. Well, there's wellness clinics around the country that actually there's doctors that will check you and prescribe you.
Yeah.
So I did that along with 9 other people apparently.
Yep.
And so kind of an interesting story. I got the week before Green Bay, the week before we were going to make the big announcement. Yeah. I rolled into the house. I landed. We taped SmackDown, or was it Raw? It was SmackDown, right?
Yep.
No.
Yep.
I landed at home. I literally walked in my front door and I got a call from Johnny's secretary. Hey, we need you to go to the airport. You need to come to Stamford. Vince needs to see you in his office. And that was all that was given to me. Just go to the airport and we will give you, as you're on your way, we'll be booking it and we'll keep you updated. And I just remember thinking, like, here we go. Here we fucking go. This is going to be
because you
good.
know the next week, you know what's starting the next week.
Yep. So I'm like,
going to get fitted for suits, going to get my own office here. This is going to be great.
Big. This is big. Right. And I remember getting there. They picked me up in a town car, took me to the Titan Towers. And I got there and there was like three or four other guys there. And I was like, hey, what are you guys doing here? And then I think it was Chavo, maybe. Chavo said, like, I don't think this is good. I don't know, but I've heard, I don't think it's good. And I remember, so there was 10 of us, 9. I don't know. It was all of us that were there. It was like 9 or 10 of us, right? We're sitting outside Vince's office, those double glass doors. And we were like, well, whoever goes in first, come out and smarten us up, like let us know what's going on. So Edge was the first one to go in. And Edge went in. He's gone for like 3 or 4 minutes. He comes back out. He opens the door. He goes, I can't say anything. It's not good. And then so then, like, I went in. I was like 3rd or 4th. I went in, and they were like, this is against the wellness policy. And I was like, well, I have a prescription. I have a doctor's prescription. And he was like, yes, but your doctor filled the prescription from an online pharmacy, and the wellness policy specifically states that you cannot. And I was like, I didn't know that. Like, I thought I didn't know what my doctor was doing. And he was like, I'm sorry, my hands are tied. I have to do something about this. And I was like, so what are we going to do? And I remember it was Johnny, Vince, and Ed DeBevick. They're like super mega high profile attorney. Excuse me. And he was like, well, he goes, I'm suspending you for 30 days and I'm fining you $10,000. And I was like, suspending me for 30 days, like, and he's like, effective immediately.
Oh, no.
And I was like,
no.
And I was like, what's the plan with our thing? And he was like, I have no idea. We'll figure it out. Stay tuned. And then I showed up at TV the next week because it was, it was in Green Bay.
Yep.
And I want to say, like, you came up to me and told me, hey, I don't know.
No.
That's fuzzy. Did you not? You didn't tell me?
No. So Bruce Pritchard came up to me. They had the rehearsal. Okay. And as everyone was going out to the ring for the rehearsal for it, Bruce pulls me aside and goes, hey, you're the son. You need to go under the ring as people are leaving. You need to sneak under. We're going to sneak your suitcase under, all of that. So no one knew. I didn't know literally until that rehearsal was going on.
Wow. I remember the funny thing was it was whittled down to a male with blonde hair, right? So it was you, me, and Sandman. That was
Sandman. Yep.
Right?
Oh, Triple H. It was fair hair, so it couldn't be anyone with dark hair because Triple H was one of the last ones. That's where they got that shot of them two.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm honest with you when I say this. Like, I was like happy for you.
Yeah.
Like, hey, fucking this. And at that point, you just sort of, that's just life. That's why we don't get super excited about things, because things change. And it's not always as a result of a punishment. It's constantly, it's 52 weeks of TV and you got to keep it going. So, like, I was bummed that I screwed up this big opportunity, but I was also happy for my buddy.
All right. I have to ask this because I do it every show, every interview I do. It's a nice ending to every episode. I always talk about pinch me moments. I've had a few of them. And those are the things that bring us back down to earth and make us normal humans in this crazy career that we've done and everything we've done in wrestling and in life. What is or a couple pinch me moments that you can really like think about that go, yeah, that's it?
I mean, the thing, like, holding that briefcase up at WrestleMania was like, and the funny thing was, like, there's 83,000 people in attendance.
That's my favorite.
And I remember during the day going out, because we had never played in a venue that big or anywhere near that big. So I just remember looking out and going like, this is going to be crazy. And then on the day, in the moment, walking out and going like, oh, it doesn't really look like it. It looks like a 20,000 seat arena. Just everybody's there. It's packed. And then afterwards getting done, because we were on first.
Yep.
Got showered up and went up to there was a luxury box where all the family members and friends were. And then looking out and seeing this giant dish with the little tiny ring in the center of it and going like, oh, wow. Then it was like, it dawned on me. I just did that. That's crazy.
Have you, I don't know if you've ever told, you had to have by this point, you told me a funny thing that happened during the end of that, and we'll end on that. The little banter back and forth between you and CM Punk.
Mm-hmm. So our first, I think it was my second match, because the first match I ever did was in Green Bay at the watering hole. Second match was like the next night in, it's not Whitewater, but I'm going to say it's somewhere near Whitewater, Wisconsin.
Waukesha?
No, it was a smaller town near Madison.
Okay.
And it was for Rockin' Randy.
Yep.
Which was, what was the name of his promotion?
MAW was Carmine. It wasn't him.
No. NPW or what? It was Rockin' Randy's promotion.
Yeah.
Rockin' Randy and Eric Freedom. And so I sold tons of tickets for my first show. Like there was 300 people in attendance, 350, something like that. Most of them were my friends and family going crazy. I got this great reception. To the next night, I'm in this Whitewater, Wisconsin, and Rockin' Randy had me, because like when guys would start out, he didn't like to put them over.
Yep.
He wanted you to like respect the business, which is cool. So he just kind of had like a bring me back to earth moment, and he booked me as Two Rivers Jack. I wasn't Ken Anderson. I was Two Rivers Jack. I got no music. He's like, you're not getting any music tonight. And then I wrestled this fake Golga from the Oddities. Yep. And it was like the only thing that I was going to get was a drop kick, and he was going to no-sell the drop kick, and then I was just going to get beat.
Yep.
And I remember like, I don't care. Well, okay, cool, man. I'm doing this. And so Punk was on that show, and I want to say like they had him doing this goon thing where he put like a pantyhose over the top of his head, right? He was the goon. And so then fast forward, we're at the top of the ladder, and it's the last thing before I'm gonna pop him off and then grab the briefcase. And he was just like, "Hey, man, it's funny seeing you here. This is a little bit far from Whitewater, Wisconsin, wouldn't you think?" As we're like trading blows. It's kind of a cool little moment. It was that, and the moment that I had with you under the we're just like, man, we got a really cool job. Again, moments like that are just, I don't know, that's what we live for.
It makes all of the bullshit and traveling and delayed flights and shitty hotels and rent-a-cars not being ready and all of that. Moments like that bring you out of that and go, you know what? Why am I pissed off? I get to sign my fake name and I get to just laugh and experience this and not realize there's 80,000 people. They don't know what we're saying to each other, but we're having this moment. That's pretty awesome.
It's funny you say that because like this is a pinch me moment that I have all the time now where at some point it got to the point where it was just a job to me.
Yeah.
And I had the same gripes that like if you worked at McDonald's, you would bitch about management and you'd complain about this and that. And it was sort of the same thing. You just fall into that groove, or it's easy to fall into that groove of complaining and being pissed off. Oh, they didn't do this. They didn't do that. They said they were going to do this and they didn't. And, you know, now looking back on it, it's like at the end of the day, no matter what, it's not a bad gig.
No.
It's not a bad gig.
I say it to my girlfriend all the time. I go, I get flown around the world to sign my fake name for people to tell me how awesome I am.
Yeah. Sign me up.
All right. Well, pal, thank you. Thank you for the time, for taking this and enjoying the afternoon and just telling fun stories. I appreciate it.
I love it, man. I seriously, I feel like we could sit here for another couple hours, but we'll do it again. So, thanks a lot.
Guys, let's talk about Mad Cat Beard Care. They make my beard feel soft, silky smooth, and they can do the same for yours. A one-man show since 2019, Mad Cat uses a portion of their sales to care for local stray cats. That money covers their medical bills and finds them safe spaces and forever homes. Their products are made to order with vitamins and all-natural oils that promote strong, healthy hair and moisturize your skin as well. They've got exclusive scents for myself, as well as other wrestlers like my good pal Brian Myers, Mr. Kennedy, and Ring of Honor legend Delirious. Make sure to check out all of their scents, along with my Swoggled scent, which has notes of lavender and sage. I absolutely love this scent. And guys, we've got an exclusive offer for listeners of Going Postl. Use promo code SWOGGLED to save yourself 15% on your orders only at madcatbeardcare.com. That is Swoggled with a D on the end to save yourself 15% on your orders at madcatbeardcare.com. Guys, that's 15% with promo code SWOGGLed. And remember, the Mad Cat makes a happy beard. There it is, ladies and gentlemen, friends of the pod, listeners of the pod. Thank you. Thank you to you all for listening, for watching. Thanks, Ken, for joining us on this. It was a lot of fun. It was good to catch up. These are always kind of, as we kind of talked about in the very start of the episode, whenever it's like buddies of mine, as I've always said, buddies of mine and people that I actually have a relationship with, it's always a hard start, like to get into the interview, because it's like I'm trying to keep it somewhat professional, but these are my buddies, so it comes off very awkward and it feels very awkward. But real quickly, it was just like off to the races, and it was great. Had a very, very good talk. Revealed some unknown things that I think I've known all of the things about Ken, and especially about our relationship. And then there's just random stuff that gets pulled out. And I'm like, oh, okay. It takes me back a bit.
I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much for hanging out with us and listening to this small talk. As always, you can go and follow Dylan on all forms of social media at Dylan Postl. We have a social channel for the podcast. It's at Going Postl Pod for all of the video content, including the free video versions of this podcast.
I also have been thinking about getting into the YouTube shorts and just instead of long form diaries, doing just shorts. So I was thinking about doing that. Just easy. Because I was like, oh man, those can be fun. Those can be just like easy. Don't need to be edited. Nothing like that. Like I view that like I really should use my Instagram more for like shorts, because there's just funny things that I put on Snapchat, on my personal Snapchat, that I find very, very funny. George, real quick, aside from this podcast, you and former Creative Pro Wrestling champion Johnny Clash, we call him John Cruz, have another podcast. Tell us about it.
Oh, that would be the Game Marks podcast, where we break down a different video game each and every week. We used to be just wrestling games, and we still favor heavily to the wrestling video games. But the next episode that we are doing is a 2-part episode. We are doing TMNT month, so we are doing the original TMNT for NES,
the first one,
the first one,
the like expert unbeatable one.
Yeah, like the really, really hard one for the original NES.
Not happening.
And then we're going to do Turtles in Time.
Yep.
And then I believe Clash said at some point, maybe we'll do like a bonus mini breakdown playthrough of Shredder's Revenge, which is the new
Shredder's Revenge is really, really good. Thank you very much. Patreon.com/PodXchange. We're talking about the Game Marks pod. We're talking about this pod. Patreon.com/PodXchange. PodXchange. It's where you can find all of that. Ad-free listening, bonus content, and so much more.
Yeah, I don't think there's much that you missed. DylanPostl.com. We talked about the YouTube. ProWrestlingTees.com/Swoggle. There is also a PodXchange store available at PodXchange.shop. That is exclusive merchandise for this show, Game Marks. And if you just want some PodXchange stuff, Johnny Clash made a very beautiful logo, so we made some hats and some hoodies with that on it. And I do believe with that, I hope you got one queued up. Give us a lovely, beautiful sign off for this week's episode.
One day you'll find it. The Rainbow Connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and me.